I get approached multiple times a week from people that just want to buy our business and then employ me to run it. And I kind of go, if I wanted that, I wouldn't have started a business. We almost got to pen hovering over the paper and signing. And then something happened that made me question the whole deal.
I'm actually Tate. Welcome to Founders Unfiltered, What It Takes, the podcast where we talk to founders about what it takes to build a successful business. So, Chris, nice to have you here. For people who don't know who you are, can you tell us who you are?
Yeah, my name's Chris Iveson. I'm founder and CEO of a company called FourJaw Manufacturing Analytics, and we are based in Sheffield in the UK, and we've been going for 5 years.
Good stuff, good stuff. And just full disclosure, I'm an investor in FourJaw, so one of the reasons I wanted to get Chris along was to tell the world about FourJaw and also hopefully inspire a few people to go down the same route that you've gone down, or maybe put them off.
No.
So yeah, tell us about the early days, like as far back as you want to go, like
Well, FourJaw or me?
you. Let's
Me.
yeah,
So I grew up in a little place called Knaresborough
yeah, okay.
in North Yorkshire.
Yorkshire, yeah.
And went to university at Newcastle. And I went and did a product design degree. I actually went to Northumbria University because that's the university where Jonathan Ive went, and he's the head designer from Apple. And so that was kind of, I really wanted to be a designer. I wanted to design things that people kind of used on the shelves, in the shops, computers, iPods, whatever. And so went to university there. Then ended up getting myself an early career in design and engineering in Sheffield, and that's what brought me to Sheffield, my work. And then yeah, I guess from there, eventually set up FourJaw.
Yeah. So how long were you? So you're in Sheffield, working design and engineering.
Yep.
So how long were you doing that for?
So I moved to Sheffield I did a placement year, but then I moved to Sheffield in 2010. And then I started FourJaw in 2020, so 10 years. And I had some various kind of jobs at different engineering and design sort of led businesses in and around Sheffield. Learned a lot off a lot of different people. There's a really good engineering business that I graduated out of university into, and it's called AES Seal. And I learned so much there. And I can actually directly pinpoint the things that I learned in that business in my literally 10 years before I started FourJaw. I can directly pinpoint the path from what I learned there through to eventually starting FourJaw.
Okay. So it was working at AES that led you to the idea of FourJaw.
Wasn't so much the idea, it was more, again, I don't know how much detail to go into, but in my early career, I worked directly for the managing director of AES Seal, who's a self-made kind of entrepreneur, done very, very well. AES Seal is now a very big business, really, really prestigious engineering business in the UK. And straight out of university, he said, you've just done a design and engineering degree and you've got no idea how to patent protect what it is that you create. So I went through a crash course in patent, in writing and understanding patents. And in my early career, that was almost like my unique selling point as an engineer, because there's lots of engineers that were creating lots of cool stuff. And quite often they would then come to me and say, Chris, I really want to patent this. I guess fast forward a couple of different jobs, and I found myself at the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre, which is the research centre that we eventually spun FourJaw out from. And I went in as a design engineer, but there were 500-600 engineers there, all coming up with clever stuff and going, Chris, I want to patent this. How do I do it? And you very quickly move on to the question of, well, what are we going to do with it once we've protected it? Yeah, it's a bit of research, great. What do we do with it? We want to get it out of the research centre, and we want to get it into the world. And the way that we do that is by building businesses around this research. And so I sort of got to a point in my career where I've been an engineer for a number of years. I was really enjoying this commercialization of academic research, and I sort of went, right, now is probably a time where I should start learning about business, because that's, so the AMRC put me through an MBA. I learned loads on that. And then eventually I met my co-founder, Robin Hartley-Willows, and about probably 12 months after that, we decided to spin FourJaw out.
Nice. So what was the spark then for FourJaw? Like, was there like a problem or a pain?
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. So the idea actually came from Robin. So I got myself to a position where I wanted to be spinning companies out of the research centre left, right, and centre. And there were a few different businesses that could have eventually led to, kind of like, what eventually became the business. And you get loads of failures. You kind of try various bits and pieces, and then you work out what works and what doesn't. And then I met Robin, and Robin had come up with a piece of software that he was using to connect to the control systems of some of the machines, the metal cutting machines, the CNC machines at the research centre. And he was extracting data from these control systems and throwing them up on dashboards and presenting, what these machines were doing from a data perspective. And he obviously, research centre has loads of people from industry walking through it all the time. And every time they saw what he'd done, they're like, that's brilliant. Can I buy it? I want it on my shop floor. And so we sort of realised that there was a bit of a spark of something there. Because at the time the answer was, well, no, you can't have it on your shop floor because it's a bit of research.
Yeah. So you had customers, essentially, customers coming to you.
People walking through asking for it, yeah. And so then you start going, right, well, how do we turn this into a business? There's clearly a need. What is the need? There is clearly a need, like, and then you then get into all the stuff that the MBA prepared us for, really, which is, how are you going to charge for it? What's the model going to be? Is there going to need to be some hardware? Is it just software? All these different things that you have to sort of answer to actually turn this thing into a business. And so it was quite a long journey, and a lot of that year really was spent, Robin and I, convincing ourselves to take the leap.
Okay. So at this point, FourJaw didn't exist. It was an
No.
It was an idea.
It was an idea, yeah. We originally wanted to call it Boost Manufacturing Technologies, but there was a trademark issue. And so we were working on Boost for quite a long time. We spent a year sort of getting early customers, trying to, get something installed in their factory, working out how much to charge for it. We haven't got a clue how much to charge for software. We've never done this before. Everything was kind of made up on the fly. But it's all about sort of trying things, learning from them, learning how to do it, learning how not to do it. And then eventually, I mean, we still do that. That's still the approach that we take every day, yeah.
So at this point, though, did FourJaw exist as a business?
No.
Or was just a research project?
Yeah, so there's like I say, roughly a 12-month period up until September 2020, middle of COVID, when we actually incorporated. 8th of September 2020. And I know you had Andy Evans on earlier. Well, I don't know when, but you had him on this podcast, and actually we were pitching for investment to Andy Evans. And it was in COVID, so it was a webinar, kind of a Teams pitch for investment. We had our laptops perched on a windowsill, and just as we'd kind of finished the investment pitch where we'd met Andy for the first time, we then got the email from the government saying, "Congratulations, you've got your company."
Excellent.
Yeah, that was like a really cool little moment, like met our first investor and incorporated at exactly the same time.
Brilliant. So throughout that 12 months, then you were getting paid. So this was a safe.
Yeah, it was safe.
Experience.
We had our jobs. A lot of the challenge in the very early days was how do I prize Robin away from his day job? Because Robin is a really good engineer.
Yes.
How do I prize him away from the day job that pays the bills to the research centre that we were working for, to work on a business which, let's be honest, in the very early days, 99% of them are going to fail. And so a lot of that, there was a lot of challenge there. We had to do that. And then the University of Sheffield, which is the research centre is part of, they had a commercialisation fund, and then we used that to do some product development work, but we also used it to get advisors in. And a lot of that, we would literally just lock ourselves away in a room for half a day, and we would just chat about, and it was all about building the commercial proposition, but also building up our confidence that this was actually something that we could take the leap out of our safe day jobs to go and do. And I always remember the penny sort of dropped for us both, really, when we sort of came to the decision, look, we can start this company from whilst we're employed, spin it out, the university will take a small share, we'll spin it out, we'll then get our first investment round into the business, and then we take the leap. And that investment will buy us 12 months to just give it a really good go. And if in 12 months we've not managed to make a success of it, then we've just got a great story for our next job interview. And at that point, all the risk sort of evaporates. Even though you've got mortgage, I had 2 kids, you've got all these things, the risk sort of evaporates because the journey itself is where the value is. And so it didn't actually work out like that in any way for various reasons, because of COVID and various bits and pieces. But I always remember that being the light bulb where we went, we're on here. There's a green light there. Let's go for it.
But that's a great way of looking at it, because lots of people wouldn't think this is a great story to tell my next employer, even if it fails.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever heard people look at it like that before. But
we felt like we were learning so much before we'd even left. And we were progressing ourselves, just that you end up sort of going, look, by 12 months, 100% at it, and give it a really good go. And yeah, like I say, we didn't quite do it in that order. It was a bit more risky than that in the end, but we did raise, well, £500,000 in just under in the first round, and that did buy us 12 months to give it a good go. And then yeah, we did enough to raise again, and yeah, we've now raised 4 times, and hopefully we don't need to raise again, because we've grown the business enough.
You're good. That's what every startup wants to do, right? Every startup wants to get to that place where we don't need to raise again.
We probably still will.
Yeah,
because it's nice to raise from a position of strength.
So, when you decided to quit your job, who was the first person you told?
Robin.
I'm trying to think, like, is there, because lots of people say, they can talk to friends or family, and quite often they can get talked out of an idea.
Yeah.
Was that
So
risk, or did you go through any of that?
So my wife's been very supportive from day one, and she knew that it was something that I really wanted to do. And we'd spoken about it for years before we actually started FourJaw. And so it wasn't really a surprise to her when I said, I'm going to go with Robin and leave my job. She was okay with it. And again, you sort of tell that same story that, look, we're going to get some money in, so it's relatively safe. And actually, think about it, kind of, if you've got money in the bank and you can see that money going down each month, then actually you can see what's coming. So it's even it feels a lot safer than if you're in a normal job and you can't see that, and then all of a sudden someone announces redundancies, like, oh no. So that's how I sold it to her, and she kind of bought it.
And that's another really interesting point, right? Because people say, I'm in a safe job.
Yeah.
And what's a safe job?
What is a safe job?
Google make redundancies.
Yeah.
People aren't short of cash. They make people redundant.
What I would say is a university is a safe job.
Yeah.
Because if they do want rid of you, then they're usually quite generous when they do that.
Okay. So you did quit a genuinely safe job. So you raised investment, first round of investment. So what was that like? That was in the middle of COVID as well. So
that was really stressful. That was probably one of the most stressful parts of FourJaw. So back you'll know this, you've done this loads of times. When you're in the very early stages of business, it almost feels like every decision is life and death. And if you get this decision wrong, then you might be, you might have, you might live to regret it. And I do think that when you raise that first investment round, who you raise it off is huge. That's so, because you're literally putting in place the foundations for the business for the we've got 30 odd investors now, of which many are angels. But no one's ever left.
Okay, like no angels ever pulled out.
No one who's invested has taken their money out yet. So you need to make sure that you pick, especially if they're going to be big and active. We've got a lot of our 30 investors are angel investors who are either passive, we send out an update every now and again, or they're helpful, but no one really kind of is too overbearing. I think a lot of investors get a bad rep, really, because people think, oh, investors, that sounds like I'm going to lose control, and we've never had any sort of control issues in FourJaw.
And do you think that's by design, or do you think that's
possibly by design?
Yeah.
Because we've not raised a huge amount of money, and we have raised it off quite a spread investor base. And yeah, that is partly by design. Yeah, I think you could potentially go in and get a large round on day one from a single institution, I think the dynamics would be very different. But either way, you need to make sure when you're raising in that first stage that you pick the right investor, because if you get it wrong, it could end up being fatal before you even start to set off.
And how do you go about doing that then? How do you go about picking the right
Speak
investor?
to people. Yeah, so we spent probably from February, March 2020 through to December 2020, we were talking to investors. And in the very early stages, you haven't got a clue what you're talking about, and you've got your financial forecasts, and you'll spit out a financial forecast along with a pitch deck, following a conversation with an investor, and you can spit out, you can send the same documents to two different people, and one investor will say, that's absolutely ridiculous. You're never going to achieve those financial figures. They're far too ambitious. And then the other one will say, where's your ambition? And so, and the only way that you sort of find out what sensible is by speaking to enough people. And even then it's a load of rubbish, because it's financial forecasts. And, I always say when we raised our first round of investments, we were two idiots with an idea. Like that's literally who we were. Like, we were ambitious, but we didn't have a clue what we were going to do. And yeah, like, but so you need to go out and speak to lots and lots of investors, and then every investment round we've ever done, you'll have a target figure that you want to raise, and it's never a straight line up to that target figure. It's nothing, 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 and then all of a sudden it'll go, everyone's interested, and so you've got to get that first interested investor on board, and with SCIS and EIS, like that does help, because you can say, look, SCIS investors are the first ones in.
Yes.
So do you want to be the first one? Because I can only raise 250 grand under SCIS.
Yes.
So at the time it was 150 for us. So I can only raise that much under SCIS, and it's first come, first serve. And so that does help you accelerate things.
Why do you think people investors, like if you were two idiots?
Why do you think people invested?
Hey, you said you were two idiots. So like, what is it that got people excited and got people willing to part with their money?
So in the very, very early stages, we had...
I don't think you're two idiots, by the way. Just
been a bit. I've been a little bit flippant. But in the very early stages, we had lots of enthusiasm. We had a solid idea, and we importantly for a software business, we had a small number of paying customers, and that proves there's some value in what you've got.
Absolutely. Having been in your shoes as well, and having been in investors' shoes, like immediately that changes the conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because without that, you've got no validation, and most investors aren't an expert in it, whatever it is that you do. Most investors haven't got a clue what you do, and actually, as you get up to the venture capitalist and private equity, when you start raising bigger amounts of money, quite often the due diligence that they'll do at that level on the tech is actually really light touch, because if someone's trading lots of money for it, then they don't really need to know any more than that, Various investors have told me
that. So what's the best? You said it's about getting the right investors. So what's the best advice you've had from investors, or what's the most helpful thing that investors have helped you?
So I think that what is not spoken about enough in the startup community is the value that angel investors bring over and above their money. Because angel investors are investing their own money, which means that by definition, they are usually pretty successful in their own right. And they're doing it because a lot of the time, because they want to pay back. Part of the motivation is that, they've made a load of money. Yes, all right, they want some tax breaks, and they want to invest in something interesting and exciting. But they also want to see you succeed. And so a lot of our angels are passive, but some of them we speak to every fortnight. And we'll have Rob and I still, 5 years on, we will have a fortnightly catch up with 3 or 4 of them, for an hour, and we'll just talk about our woes, very openly, and they will usually steer us right. And we've got some, some of them, but we've got some that are really good at, for example, when you're raising investment, because they've done a lot of that, and then we've got others that are brilliant commercially. And then we've got others that are quite good technically, and so you sort of learn which one to go to in any given circumstance. But we would not be where we are without that advice.
And is there any advice that you wish you had listened to that you didn't listen to?
I know we get told that we're quite good at listening to advice. One of my biggest learnings, I think, since starting the business, I think it's really important you build a balanced business. Both, and when I say balance, I mean businesses all have a technical side and a commercial side. And I think a lot of the time, particularly with university spin-outs, the temptation is to go really heavy on the tech and not build up the commercial. Whereas weirdly, we went the other way. We actually built out a strong sort of commercial proposition and stuff, but I don't think we invested enough in the technical side of our business. And so we ended up sort of growing this quite lopsided business that we've had to sort of correct for once we've realised. And that has been an interesting process over the years.
But that's the real business, right? I think lots of startups are very good at building products and they're not very good at selling that product.
Yeah. Whereas we actually we were quite good at selling the product. For 2023 we flew. We were onboarding 10 new customers a month, and everything was going really, really well. And by the end of 2023, we ended up in this position where the business was completely different in scale by Christmas from January. And the tech started creaking. Yeah, we hadn't built it to be that scalable. And so you end up with lots of challenges, and to correct those challenges is a big job. And arguably we're still doing it now. Being probably too honest now, but
but I think that's every successful startup, right? I think if you are too polished with things in the early days, you never even get to the stage of winning customers.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're trying to make this perfect thing, and then you may run out of money before you even generate any revenue.
And we always talk about progress beats perfection.
It's a really good phrase. Yeah.
Always move forward. Always, don't wait until it's absolutely perfect before you get it in front of someone, because you spend all this time polishing whatever it is, and then you get out in front of someone and they go, well, that's not what I wanted anyway.
Yeah.
So you've wasted all that time.
Love that.
So yeah, trying to small increments, little and often, as much as possible. And one of the benefits of our software business is that we deploy improvements to our software every 2 weeks. So it enables you to build that. We didn't used to. That's all part of this, kind of upgrading on the technical side of the business. But yeah, now it's every 2 weeks we improve. Everything gets better, and we speak to our customers. What did you think about that? Yeah, that's great. I'm not sure about that bit, and then we'll take that back on board and go again.
Yes. So hiring, usually most businesses raise money, and the first thing you do with that money is hire people. Who did you hire that made the biggest impact?
Oh, that's favoritism.
Sorry, is that okay? Oh, what role?
What roles did we hire for first?
Yeah.
So our first hire was a software engineer. Technically, that employee was employed before me and Robin for reasons I will not bore you with. But yeah, so we went software engineer first. They started building, and then we went for digital marketing. And again, we needed some leads, we needed some customers. So they started bringing in a few leads, but build the website, get some ads out, that sort of thing. And then I was doing, myself and Robin actually shared some of the sales in the early stages. And then I can't remember, it's 5 years ago, but
but that's so you were doing sales, because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
A lot of startups as well.
Yeah.
Lots of founders don't do sales.
Yeah.
And
sales is uncomfortable, or it can be if you're technical. But it's so important because you need to speak to people. You need to get their feedback on what you've got. What I would say is I haven't really done sales directly for quite a long time now. Because we've got a strong sales team, So one of our relatively early hires, I think October 21, I think. So just over a year after we started, I got our head of sales, and then he's built the team out, and he's still with us, and doing great. And he's sort of built the team out under him, and so I still speak to customers, at various points in time and stuff. But I actually don't feel confident selling my own product now. I'll probably ask you to say that out.
You don't feel confident selling your own product. Is that because you're just not close enough to the?
Just not close enough to like I say, we're changing it every 2 weeks, and to keep on top of those changes, you need to be using it all the time.
Yeah.
And so from a high level, of course, I can explain what it does, but in terms of clicking what, where, and when, I'm just not the expert anymore because it's changed so much since since I do it.
Yeah. And I think that's the nature of a successful growing business. Like, you are the best in the world at sales until you hire your replacement.
Yeah.
And then they become, hopefully, better at it than you do.
Well, and I think when you're founding a business, what's really important is that you're a good generalist. You can, like, I built the first website. I did the first financial model. I did the first sales. Like I've done lots of bits and pieces in the very early stages, but very quickly you get to a stage where you go, I just need someone who's way better than me at sales. Yeah, and so you just need to find someone who fits that role, and then I need to find someone that's way better than me at finance. And it took us a few different goes and stuff, and now we've got a brilliant finance person. And marketing, I had a marketing, again, early hire, been with us for 3-4 years now. Brilliant at marketing, and so you need to be flexible and adaptable enough to be able to do lots of things. But now I always, again, I kind of jokingly sort of say, I don't really do anything anymore. I just sit and talk to people and and my role has now become making sure everyone's pulling in the same direction and getting on whilst they're doing it.
Yeah.
And so that is now my role.
And lots of founders struggle to get to that place because they are maybe like a control freak and can't relinquish that control.
Yeah.
Where do you sit? Where do you sit?
I'm sort of at the opposite end. And again, it comes down to this progress beating perfection, right? If someone's working for you and they do something and it's not quite how I'd have done it, you've just got to go, that's fine. Like, and you've sort of got to trust that they'll do it. If you find someone who's better than you in the first place, then ideally they'll surprise you every time. And so yeah, I don't think if you spoke to my team that they would ever call me a control freak. But it'd be interesting if you asked them.
We'll have to get some of them on the podcast.
Yeah.
See what they say. Yeah. So you've now raised VC investment, right? Venture capital investment.
Yeah.
So how different is that from angel investment?
I thought it would be more different. So yeah, it's public information. Yeah, we raised an investment round off Mercia. Plus, we had some angels that came along at that time. I think that's the time that you came on board.
Yes.
And so we did a VC round with Mercia, Mercia Ventures, and the actual process of investment is of getting that investment is very different. The amount of due diligence they do is much higher, but actually since then, they've been really good. They largely allow us, like I say, there's no control issues or anything like that. They trust us to be able to grow the business and to make decisions. And we have to get investor consents for bigger decisions, large financial commitments and stuff. But you just, you explain why you're doing it, and they go, yeah, no problem, and that's it. It's that simple. So yeah, the actual process of raising the investment is very different. The people that you're dealing with approach it very differently from angels. Angels are very much, they've made a load of money, they don't really know where to put it, and they get some tax breaks, and they like you, and so, okay, put me down for a few tens of thousands of pounds or whatever it might be. But obviously once you get to a certain size, it's difficult to keep growing with angel investment like that, because you need to just know loads of angels, and you almost get into crowdfunding, so at some point you go, right, we need a decent wedge of cash in. So then you start going out to the venture capitalists, and it's just let's just call it a more professional approach. They expect to see more traction. They expect you to know your numbers, various KPIs and stuff that you just need to know. If you don't know them, it's a big turn off, because and then lots of questions. Slightly cynically, I don't think this is unfair. I do think that it's often in, and this is, I'm not saying anything bad against Mercy here. This is all of them. It's often in their best interests to string it out. To kind of slow things down for two reasons. One is, they get you give them a forecast when you first start talking to them. You tell them that you're going to achieve X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. And if they string it out, then they get to see if you're actually delivering.
Yes.
So that makes sense. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're also running out of cash, so you're getting more desperate, which means that you're more likely to accept more favourable terms for them. So then the job of the founder is to get lots of different VCs interested all at once, because as soon as one of them goes, I'm in, here's a term sheet, then the others will go, okay, wait for me, I will compete, or sometimes they'll club together and come in together. And the thing is the reason why startups can be, there's loads of reasons why startups can be hard, but one of the reasons why startups can be hard is because as the founder, you're having to do that whilst at the same time grow your business. And that takes so much time. You get, because often the way that they slow it down is they ask for more information. Can you show, can we dig into this a little bit more? And then that's it. You've lost 2 days of your time pulling out a load of data and crafting a story around it to give back to the VC, and so yeah, it becomes very time consuming, which again comes back to, if you can build a team that's better at running the business day to day, then that frees you up to be able to focus on where's the business going in the future, which I know is something you're very good at.
Well, I think so. Yeah. Good. Okay. I mean, that's great advice, because I think lots of people don't necessarily understand the implications of what comes with the money.
Yeah.
It's easy to see these headlines of, this business raises £1 million.
Yeah.
But what you don't see is all the restrictions, or maybe all the covenants, or maybe all the other obstacles that might come with.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often founders end up getting to a place where it's success story after success story when it comes to raising.
Yeah.
But the whole reason they then started that business, for maybe financial freedom or maybe just freedom, has gone away, because now they're working for the investors.
Yeah. But if you take it to the extreme, now we're sort of reasonably established. I get approached multiple times a week from people that just want to buy our business and then employ me to run it. And I kind of go, if I wanted that, I wouldn't have started a business. But what I would say is, the whole investment game, yeah, you can get really, really harsh investment terms, and yeah, you can get all these different things. But if you can grow your business to the point that you either don't need the cash, or you've got various investors wanting to invest in you, then you're raising from a position of strength. And that means that you can negotiate out the nasty terms. You need a good lawyer as well, but because they tell you where the nasty terms are, but you can negotiate those terms out. And actually, yeah, again, we've had nothing but kind of support from our investors, including Mercy and everyone. I also want to shout out SFC Capital. They're a early stage investment fund, and they've invested in us 3 or 4 times now, at each time, and they're brilliant. They're London based, and their model is, we'll invest under SCIS, and if you can find angel money, we'll match it with our own. Yeah, and so and again, they've been nothing but supportive with us.
That's good. That's good. It's good to hear, because there's lots of stories of investment nightmares and founders losing control, and founders even not being able to raise at all. And it sounds like you've had a great journey in raising money.
We nearly made a huge mistake in our first investment round. We nearly took on board let's call them a more sort of institutional investor, and
Lucky escape.
Yeah, we almost got to pen hovering over the paper and signing, and then something happened that made me question the whole deal, and so we had to pull out, and we went to SFC Capital, who were also in. And again, this is one of the key learnings from raising investment is you've always got to have options. If you've only got one option, you're screwed. Yeah. Whereas if you've got a plan B, C, or D, then you're in a position of strength. But yeah, we got very, very close to making what you never know, but I feel like would have been a big mistake. But because we had that alternative option, we went with it.
How often your gut is always right. So where's FourJaw now? Where's FourJaw today?
So still located in Sheffield. We have 160 manufacturers paying us a monthly subscription for our product. And I don't even think I've given you the overview of what we do now, but effectively, kind of, we say, look, everything in this room that's not human or plant has been manufactured somehow. Yeah.
Yes.
So think about our t-shirts, this chair, microphone, everything has been manufactured somehow. Even the food that you eat, the beer that you might drink, like, it's all been manufactured somehow. So there's 10 million manufacturers around the world, and they've all got a productivity problem. Their machines could be producing more. And we help them to get more out of their equipment, out of their machines. And the way that we do that is with a small piece of hardware that works a little bit like a smartwatch. So a smartwatch, you slap it on your wrist and it tells you about your body. Well, we sell our machine links and we put them on machines of any electrically powered machine. And we work out, when is that machine actively making the manufacturer money versus when is it not. And if it's not, we tell them why, because we put our tablet computers on the machines as well, and the tablets will speak to or kind of pop up and ask the machine operators for things like your downtime reasons. So our sensors determine your machine's not been running for 2 hours. Why has it not been running? And so it's actually quite a simple concept. Now there's all sorts of other stuff that we do on top. There's work booking. There's we're getting into scheduling and various other bits and pieces. But effectively, the core concept is, how well is that factory performing from a productivity perspective, and what do they need to do to be able to improve that productivity? And so just by collecting simple bits of information at the coalface as it happens, simply and quickly and accurately, we then have a whole software platform that we build on top of those inputs to then work out, we allow customers to configure their own dashboards so that they can kind of answer these different questions and engage in sort of improvement activity. And we see massive improvement in our customers that engage with FourJaw and sort of use it and make changes on their shop floor. We had a case study a few weeks ago where there's a company, Lister Windows. They have got us on a relatively small number of their machines, and they make PVC and aluminium windows and doors. And just by using that process of measuring and understanding and changing their production, they're now making 250 more windows a week as a result of the improvements that they made.
And that's no extra machines.
No extra machines, no extra people.
Capacity.
It's just getting more through because they're working smarter. We've got another example of it's not published, this one, but we've got a customer who, just by collecting the downtime reasons, and so this customer's in, they're making various bits and pieces. Let's say, I'm not going to too much detail. But they've got more work going through their shop, through their factory, than they can keep up with. And just by collecting the downtime reasons, they've then used the data to give themselves confidence to employ 9 more machine operators.
Okay, wow.
Because their biggest reason for lost productivity was, we haven't got enough people. And so it's really simple to look at that and actually measure that data and then go, oh, why aren't we just employing more people? Because we've got X again, figures, but we're losing all this money due to the fact that we've not got someone at the machine, but there's work to go on it and the machine's there stood.
Yeah.
So relatively simple bits of information, assemble it onto dashboards, explore the data, understand where your problems are, understand what you need to do about them, make the changes, measure the changes, and then go again, constantly.
Okay.
Continuous improvement.
So where's FourJaw going? Where are you going to be in 5-10 years time? Where do you want to be?
So our vision is maximize manufacturing productivity across the globe.
Right. Nice vision. Yeah.
Our tech is globally shippable.
Okay.
Customers typically install it themselves, and we currently, most of our customers are based in the UK because that's where we're targeting, but you end up with group companies of existing customers that come to us. So we've probably got 20 or 30 customers dotted around the world. We've got some in the Middle East, we've got a couple in New Zealand, Australia, America, and so, but we've never really tried selling internationally. Now, there's the whole thing in the startup world where you can spread yourselves too far too thin too soon, and you end up getting yourself in a pickle. With servicing these people, we're sort of getting to the point now where we're getting to profitable. We're a decent sized team now. There's 30 of us. What are we doing next? And like I say, we're getting to profitable, so we don't need to raise again, but we might still want to raise again, because if you want to grow internationally, then you can do it organically, but that's slow. Or you can raise a decent sized investment round and accelerate it. And so, yeah, we want to maximize manufacturing productivity across the globe. That means accelerate the revenues. That means accelerate the value delivery to lots of manufacturers in lots of different industries. In sort of 5 or 10 years' time, that's where we want to be. We want to have locations all over the place.
Excellent. So what drives you as a person? Because running a business is hard, right?
Yeah. There's all saying that, there's two types of founders. There's the mercenaries and there's the missionaries. Yeah. And so the mercenaries just want to make a load of cash and exit. And there's the missionaries, which are, I'm doing this because I want to change something in the world. And I don't want a yacht.
Okay.
What I'm driven by is, what I love is looking back 6 months and going, look how far we've come. And it's more the journey. Look how far we've come, but look how far we've still got to go. We've still got challenges all over the place, and once we solve those challenges, we'll have a load more. And so I'm just really enjoying the journey of building this business, back from literally me and Robin and an idea, two idiots and an idea, like I say, through to a 30-person team with 160 customers. I want to keep going, and towards that vision. So maybe I am missionary.
And what's the biggest challenge? Like, what's stopping you getting there faster than you'd like to?
I think that you never have enough resources. You always want more. I could triple the size of my software development team, and we still wouldn't be moving fast enough. Similarly with all other areas of the business, so you're always resource constrained, and because you're resource constrained, the most important thing you can do is focus on doing the right thing. Because if you try and do everything, you'll do nothing. So again, kind of in the past year, we've adopted OKRs, objectives and key results, which helps you to sort of, as a leadership team, set what's important to the business. And everything else is just noise. Yeah. Just keep going towards achieving those OKRs, because even if you get 90% of the way there on most of them, then you've still made progress. And then 3 months later, you reset them. And so we found that actually to be a really, really useful tool to drive our direction.
And do you think, you talk about being resource constrained, and I feel like that's every single business in the world. But do you think that can be a good thing?
Oh yeah, because it forces you to focus. You decide that you're not going to off and build lunchboxes or whatever it might be, something completely random. It does force you to focus. But at the same time, yeah, I'd love to speed up.
Yeah. And it is this balance, isn't it? Because I think one of the most famous, maybe unresource constrained startups in the world was WeWork.
Yeah.
They could just sign blank checks, basically, and they did.
Yeah.
And they had almost, money was probably what caused their downfall.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, it's kind of like the curse of Silicon Valley, isn't it? A lot of it becomes fake it till you make it, which is fine if you make it.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, then it blows up quite big time. Whereas I think in the UK, we're very culturally just very different. I saw a really interesting talk actually with a US lawyer that helps UK businesses either move and kind of grow into the US or raise from US VC. And he he kind of he didn't use these words, but he said that basically in a lot of cases, UK businesses raising from US VC it's always really, really tempting to want to do, because you get better valuations, and if you've got a better valuation, you get more money. And so all founders are always going, oh, let's go to America. And we've gone through periods where we've said the same. But and he didn't use these words, but the conclusion I came to was raising from a US VC is basically founder suicide.
Okay.
Because the US VC, because culturally we're so different. In the US, it is fake it till you make it. Yeah. and we expect you to make it. And we would rather you adopted that approach and crashed and burned than built a strong and steadily, I mean, everything's kind of relative, but you build a strong and continually growing business. We don't want you to do that. But you're hardwired as a Brit to think that way. But in the US, they're not. It's go, 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 go. Oh, we've run out of cash. Sorry, it's crash and burn. That's what they prefer. And so you get the investment, you get all the money, you have a big party. You've then got this mismatch in expectations between what you're going to do and what the investors think you're going to do. And then the investors very quickly, after 6 or 12 months, go, you're not right for this job anymore. See you later. And I just found that really interesting as an insight from it.
Well, and I think because a lot of US investors, you are one of 100 bets.
Yeah.
So they don't, no, they don't care, but they can afford for you to fail.
Yeah. They want to invest in 100 and they want 95 of them. They want 5 of them to pay for the other 95.
Yeah. Whereas this is, as a founder, this is your bet.
Yeah, you got one. Yeah. I've had one. You've had a few.
Well, they haven't all paid off, but yeah. Yeah, but you want it to succeed, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the more sustainable way of building businesses, right? I feel there's too many people that go out there wanting to grow like crazy over 3 years, and then it all just hits the wall if you can't keep that rate of growth.
Well, I also think so. I came to a realization the other day. I think we were discussing it at one of our board meetings. If you're in a huge market like the US, which is massive compared to the UK, then so prevailing wisdom in the startup world is build something really, really small that delivers value, and then deliver that to a really niche subset of the market.
Yeah, great advice.
And build it. It's great advice. Build it and then build on it from there, but stay focused in that niche subset of your market. I think that's great if your market's big enough. In the UK, our market is in by almost all measures. I'm guessing I'm not an economist, but by almost all measures, our market is way smaller than the US. And what that means is if you go down that route, your market's tiny. So then you're forced to look outside of that niche, which means that you're forced to broaden your product offering. When in the US, you might not.
Okay.
And I found that really interesting. Like as a business, you end up building a very different business because of the size of your market. I don't really know where that's going, but
Yeah, no,
I did find that a really interesting little thing.
It's interesting because I often look at startups and sometimes think the reason why they failed or they might fail is because they just try to just take on the world.
Yeah.
And what could have been what could have been an amazing business focusing on a really niche part and becoming the best in the world at that thing ends up being just lost in a bigger business where they're trying to build every feature under the sun and cater to every customer that walks through the door.
Yeah.
But I'd not really thought about that angle that you said, which is like the size of the market. Okay, maybe
It sort of dictates that, doesn't it? But you are still definitely meant to focus and try. But I think it's also very easy as a founder to underestimate how long things take.
Yes.
And we'll just do that, and then before you know it, you've been sucked into a 6-month project or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. So what do you wish you knew 5 years ago that you know today?
This is a bit of a cop out, but there's a book called The Lean Startup,
and
I wish I'd read that 5 years ago. Yeah, because I went through it, I don't know, 2 years ago, and I was like, God, we've made so many mistakes that are just spelled down in this book. And it's all about kind of what we talked about before, about building the bare minimum of something and getting some feedback off it, and then and then iterating on it, and then getting some feedback off it. And it's a while ago since I went through it, but if you're building your first product, particularly if it's a software product, I think I would just say, yeah, definitely read that. It's brilliant.
Excellent advice. So just one last question then. So circling back round to the start, did you, when you were at school or even university, did you have a dream of setting up your own business?
I was always interested in business. I liked watching Dragon's Den and various bits of pieces. I think so. One of our angels is a really celebrated economist, and he has sort of said to me a few times, like, what is it about you that you think has led to you starting a business? And it's all about having the ambition and you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I gave it a bit of thought, and I didn't grow up in a particularly wealthy household. You know, like we were fine, you know, but we weren't overly wealthy. But I went to school with people who were more, let's say, wealthy than we were. You know, my best mate lived on a converted barn, you know, beautiful converted barn with massive, you know, acre and a half or whatever of land, and you know, it was just lovely. And so for me, kind of, I think what created the ambition was seeing that if you work really hard, then you can have that life, you know. Whereas I think some people, not to go too deep, but some people either are born into kind of wealth, and therefore trying to get that drive can be sometimes difficult. And sometimes people can think, I need to do that because I've got expectations from my parents or from my family. Whereas I didn't really have any expectations from my family, but I put expectations on myself because I wanted to be them. I wanted, you know, and I think that deep down is what's driven me through my life. And you know, you get to a point where you think, yeah, let's start this business. Let's give it a go and let's see where we end up. You know.
Yeah, excellent.
Don't know if that answers your question.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's, you know, interesting to hear from all different founders, like the reasons why they started a business. And I think a lot of people have what you just described there. It's like this, just, I don't know, hunger to have something more.
Well, I also think that earlier in my career, I was always wanting to do more than just whatever job that I had. And I clashed with a few people early in my career because I would almost step outside of my box. You're a design engineer. What are you doing going into finance? Or like, what are you doing going, like, thinking about marketing or whatever it might be? But, and quite often, like earlier, kind of my direct line managers sometimes would sort of go, you just go back and design something. And it's like, oh no, but this needs doing and no one's doing it. So I really want, and so I had this sort of feeling of being a little bit suppressed, let's say. And whereas when you're the boss, when you start your own business, then I can literally dip into any part of the business if that's what needs dipping into and try and fix it. Or speak to people who are probably going to, like I say, do a better job of me in fixing it. But I don't have that kind of caged feeling anymore. And again, I think that's partly what drove me to start the business.
Excellent. Good. Right. Well, I think we'll leave it there.
Cool.
Unless there's anything you want me to ask you that I have not asked you.
Don't think so.
Okay.
It's been good though.
Good. Great. Well, thank you for coming along. It's been great to chat with you.
Cool.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers, Ash.
I'm Ashley Tate. You've been listening to Founders Unfiltered, What It Takes. If you like what you've heard, give us a follow.